Alright, what's up, folks? It is Sunday, December 18th, 2016. Rich Van Tassel giving you our weekly NBA report. The Celtics play tonight, so I'll probably do the Celtics report either later tonight or tomorrow. In the Eastern Conference, where we start, of course, no surprise here, the Cavaliers and Toronto Raptors, like last season, separating themselves. Raptors very impressive 8-2 in their last 10. They lost the other night to the Atlanta Hawks. They're better in their differential, though. They're plus 8.4 to the Cavs plus 7.7. 19-6 are the Cavaliers, 18-8 are the Raptors. You look at it, Cleveland averaging 110 points, giving up 102.6. Toronto averaging 112 points, 112.3 to be exact, giving up 103.9, so just shy of 104. So similar, even though the differential favors Toronto. You look at the Cavaliers giving up a few less points, though Toronto is scoring a few more points. When you're averaging 110 or 112, it really doesn't make that big of a difference because you're not going to lose many games when you average that many points. So you look at how many you're giving up. Then you go down, and it's showing the state of the Eastern Conference. The Celtics are in third at 14-12. Like I said, we'll do more of the Celtics, but we'll just give you a little bit for those who don't watch my Celtics report. They had lost three straight. They're now up to 14-12. Of course, they were without Isaiah Thomas. You look at their differential, and the differential of the teams 3 through 5, who are 14-12, 15-13, the Hornets, and 13-12, the Milwaukee Bucks, were starting to come up. Plus 1.5 for the Celtics, plus 1.7 for the Hornets, plus 1.9 for the Milwaukee Bucks. The next two, the Knicks at 6th and the Pacers at 7th, are minus 3.1 and minus 1.6. Knicks on a 3-game losing streak. So it just shows how much more high class, I guess, the Toronto Raptors and Cleveland Cavaliers are. Now, looking at those teams 3 through 5, you'd still have to say the Celtics are in the best shape to make a run. Going down to 7th, you have the Indiana Pacers. I'm a little surprised they're not coming along more, especially with the addition of Jeff Teague. Paul George putting up 21.8 thus far this season. Certainly not bad, but Paul George I expect a little more from in that regard when it comes to points per game. So looking at that, mix or mess, however you want to say it. And of course, Chicago holding the last playoff spot. I mean, we're already past the quarter point of the season, so you got to at least take these into consideration where teams stand playoff wise. You'd have to look at the Celtics or the Pacers. The Hornets, I'm just not sure of. Of course, they've been without Kemba Walker now for a game. They won a game last night over Atlanta. Atlanta, who's now in 10th, they got off to a hot start. They've been up and down all season. Detroit 14th, 15th, and 9th. So the Celtics, I'd say they have the most talent. They've got to really work on their consistency. True, injuries have occurred, but they've let some games go. So that's also something you can look at. Well, if the Celtics, I can at least think of 2 games off the top of my head they had no business losing to Denver and New Orleans. You give them one of those, and then they lost a 1-point game to the Houston Rockets. They blew a lead against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you're looking at about 5 or 6 games. Let's just say 3 more wins that the Celtics should have, or not should have, but very well could have, as opposed to what they'd have. They would be 17-9 and certainly right there. So we'll see what happens, but we'll get into the Celtics more obviously. Washington at 11th, they're 6-4 in their last 10, minus 1.5. There would only be a game and a half out. I'd like to see if this team will be able to make a run. John Wall scored 29 the other night. He's putting up 24.2, 9.6 assists. I mean, all the hoopla with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Certainly John Wall's numbers are spectacular. DeMar DeRozan for the Raptors, who we didn't just mention, over 28 points. He's shooting almost 50% from the field. There are a lot of good players this season and players having very good years. It's just being overshadowed a bit because of the Russell Westbrook and James Harden heroics. After that, the Mavericks, or not the Mavericks, the Orlando Magic at 12-16. So you have basically those 4 teams outside of it. Either one of those could get into the playoffs. It's pretty fluid, I'd say, from about 6 to 12 between teams. Those spots can certainly change. And even the teams like the Celtics, the Hornets, they can move down, of course, but I'd say they're pretty much playoff teams. Then you have the Miami Heats, 9-18, Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers at 6-20. Saw some news from Nerlens Noel, talking about how bad it's getting. The Phillies 6-20, though. That's like a major improvement from last year. So we'll see what happens with Philadelphia, if they're going to move players, if they'll ever figure it out. Moving on to the Western Conference. Golden State 24-4, plus 12.9, averaging almost 118 points. They've won 4 straight and are 8-2 in their last 10. Led by Kevin Durant, 25.8 points per game. So his numbers are down a bit. You would have to expect that, but he's certainly playing very well, because still putting up almost 26 on a team that has Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You would have to, Steph Curry's almost at 25 points, so you would have to expect the numbers would dip just a bit for Durant, but still putting up over 26. I figured they would fall more, and I figured Curry's numbers would fall more. That's not an indictment on either one of those guys. It's just, these are two very good scorers. Someone's got to get the points. San Antonio, 14-1 on the roads, so they finally lost the road game, 7-4 at home, 21-5 overall. Won 3 straight, 8-2 in their last 10. The Houston Rockets, 21-7. They won 10 straight games now. James Harden, they won an overtime game last night, of course. James Harden, 27.7 points, 11.8 assists. So, this really shouldn't be surprised. I picked the Rockets to win the championship last year, of course. They really let me down. I was hoping to see some more of James Harden last year, the player we're getting now. Is it, I know everyone's going to talk about Dwight Howard. I don't think Dwight was killing this team. I really don't. When you look at it with the Houston Rockets, you have a coach who loves offense and doesn't care about defense now. So does that remind you of anyone? Oh, yeah, James Harden. So that's why you shouldn't be surprised he's putting up numbers. They brought in a Ryan Anderson. Fits very well with a James Harden. He's a guy who can spot up and shoot. A big guy who can clear out the paint for James Harden and allow Harden to drive, get to the foul line, allow guys or allow him to kick it out to a Ryan Anderson. Eric Gordon putting up good numbers. So they've gotten a lot of nice ancillary pieces, and I believe that's really helping this team. Let's see how far they can go. Of course, we know they're not going to really play any defense. It's just not Mike D'Antoni's calling card. They're giving up 106 points. That's really actually not that bad when you consider how many possessions they allow the other team. You really can't go off points per game when you're talking about the defense with Mike D'Antoni, because when you play that much offense, you're going to give the team, other opportunities, as in the 7 seconds or less. So when you talk about the Rockets defense, you got to watch the game and see where they're playing. Clippers 20-7, they've rebounded a bit, won 4 straight, 6-4 in the last 10. Memphis Grizzlies 18-10 in the 5th spot without Mike Conley. Give this team a ton of credit. If Conley comes back, I could see this team upsetting San Antonio. Certainly, I think they could beat Houston. And, I don't think they would beat Golden State, but they could certainly give them some fits. Marc Gasol leading the way with just under 20 points per game. They're getting, Chandler Parsons is not really contributing. That's a guy who they brought in, only 7.7 points. So I don't know where they're really getting the rest of it from without Mike Conley Jr. That's really been the Conley and Gasol show over the years. Vince Carter only giving them 8.5. You have Randolph, who will give you the rebounds and all that stuff. Tony Allen, not much of an offensive player. Troy Williams off the bench, not doing much of anything. So it's really just, I don't know what to say. Give them a lot of credit. JaMychal Green, 8.9 points. So they're getting it from everyone. And let's see what happens when Mike Conley comes back. I still think they need a better bench scorer. Vince Carter can spot up and shoot, but they need that. They need, an aggressive wing off the bench as well. Utah Jazz, 8-2 in their last 10, 17-10. Western Conference is really starting to come back much stronger than they did last year. You look at all these teams, the Jazz are all the way up there at 17-10. They would be in third in the Eastern Conference. Gordon Hayward, 22.5 points per game, playing very well. The Oklahoma City Thunder at, 16-11 here? Yeah. They would be in third as well in the Eastern Conference if you place them there. Russell Westbrook, 30.4 points, 11 assists, 10.5 rebounds per game. His shooting percentage in his last 10 is almost 53%, just shy of 53 at 52.9. Of course, or no, that was the last game. His last 10 games, I'm sorry, he's under 40%. So that's something to keep an eye on, only shooting 42.3% for the season. That needs to be corrected as well. And then you round out the Portland Trailblazers, or the eighth place team. They've been up and down all season, 4-6 on the last 10, minus 3.5 in their differential. They got clubbed by the Warriors by 45 last night. Denver 11-16. Sacramento 10-16. Lakers starting to crash back down 1-9 in the last 10. They're 11-19. Sacramento, I would say, would be the best team to make a run just because they have DeMarcus Cousins. We don't know how long Cousins will be there. Then Pelicans 9-19. Anthony Davis probably wants out of town. Phoenix. Of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves continue to let me down this year. And then the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, their fall has come. Power rankings. Number one, of course, the Golden State Warriors, 24-4. Just lights out this year as expected. Houston Rockets have got to be number two on their 10-game winning streak at 21-7. Number three, I will give it to the San Antonio Spurs, 21-5. Four, the Cleveland Cavaliers, 19-6, and five comes down to the Clippers at 20-7 or the Raptors at 18-8. I will give it to the Clippers, who have the better record and have won 4 straight games. All right, remember to stay tuned. Later today, we'll give you the recap of the games for Week 15 of the NFL season, and of course, the Celtics report will come later tonight or tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Enjoy your Sunday.